Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're taking a look at the real grade Crossbone Gundam X1. Now, I'm sure this is just the first in what is sure to be a long line of different real grade Crossbone variants that we're going to get over time, most of which we can assume will be P Bandai. But let's take a look at the base kit here, the first one, the X1. Let's get it started straight off the bat by ticking off a couple things that are really important to know about this kit. And number one, about the stability of it. People were worried the Crossbone Gundam is small in real grade form with a lot of parts complexity, a lot of detail in there in such a small form. Is it stable? And the answer is definitely yes. It's a very stable kit, no concerns there. The other problem is that the Crossbone Gundam in general is a very gimmicky Gundam. It has a lot of different gimmicks and weapons and things built into it, and so how much of that do you really get included with this? And I say you get pretty much everything that you would expect and more, so it's very, very worth your money in terms of all the different stuff that you get included with this as well. So the other thing that you'll notice, of course, very obviously, is that it is packed with detail, as I mentioned, and it certainly is sporting a ton of detail in this kit, and in such a small form, you might think of that as a plus or minus point. Some people don't really like kits where they have a ton of really tiny little parts to deal with. It can be a little bit hard, especially if you're kind of the person that has like really big hands or something, not really good at holding those tiny little parts. If that flies out of your hand, if you have like carpet or something in your house, or just kind of a messy room, as a lot of us modelers do, it could very well be gone instantly. So you do have to take it really slow. While I was building this kit, I was taking my time and just putting it together really carefully as to not rush through anything and drop a part into infinity.
Pray to God you don't drop that shit.
But as I said, there is a lot of stuff that you get included with this Gundam, so let's go ahead and take a look through all the weapons and accessories. So first off, as with any real grade kit, we get a big sheet of sticker decals for this, some of the really shiny ones, and then just basically a whole bunch of caution markings, noticeably smaller than most real grade kits, but of course the Gundam is smaller as well, so it makes sense. I really only use the one on the front of the chest and one for the eyes as well. But as you can see, that sticker, as important as it is to the Crossbone's design, not going to lay down flat on that curved surface of the chest, so definitely going to be waiting for some waterslide decals to come out for this guy. And while we're here up close and personal, let's take a look at the eyes. So I have the eye option here with the eye patch eye, but you do have the other eye option here of just the regular set of two eyes, and you have a sticker for that. As for this one, you don't have the full sticker where it has the black backing and the green eye in the center there, but there is just the sticker that is just the green part for the eye, and because this is so small, you're really not going to notice the difference. I mean, the fact that there's no black lining around that sticker, I feel like no one's ever going to see that. So if you do use these stickers, not really a big deal. Now, if you wanted to change these eyes, you have to basically take apart the whole head. So I'm not going to do that for the whole rest of the review. I'm just going to leave this in. But again, you guys, even still just watching a video, are probably not going to notice that unless you look at it really super close ever. So it is still cool, though, that it is an included option with the kit. It's a very small detail, but at least it's there, at least it's included. Now, one more super small thing here, but this is standard for all the real grade kits to have a 1/44 scale version of the pilot here, so we have a little pilot figure in 1/44 scale as well. We've got two different action-based adapters here for this. One is for the Gundam itself, and the other one is for the core fighter, so if you want to have the core fighter out just flying on its own, you have an action-based adapter for that as well. And then for hand options, we've got a pretty nice array of those for this kit as well. So we've just got these really nice closed fists here, first of all. And we've got this cool set of these open expressive hands like that, very nicely detailed, and the design on those is looking really cool. Then we've got these weapon holding hands, which are at this extreme angle for holding just the kind of very unique weapons for this, especially the gun. And then another set of weapon holding hands, but these are without the extended trigger finger and thumb on it. Now, these may seem a little bit plain, but what you will notice about these is that these actually are the only hands in the set that have this wrist joint here, so those will actually be able to bend forward and back at that wrist joint. Now, getting into the weapons, we've got this set of knife blades. Now, these have a couple options. The first thing is that you can plug it into the bottom of the foot here like that for having knife feet attacking. Otherwise, you pull out the handle here on the back of the leg. Admittedly, a little bit tricky to get out because of its very small size. But then the knife blade just plugs into there, and then you've got just a handheld bayonet knife that you can use like that. Then you've got a standard set of beam sabers here with some clear pink beams. Now, as far as I know, these don't plug anywhere on the kit for storage, so these are just going to be kind of off to the side. But I really like the look of these just for their simplicity, and the beams on them are just these really nice, long, thin beams. So it's not kind of your standard how it has like the bulge down at the end and then gets thinner. It's just a very thin, kind of reminiscent of the Turn A Gundam's beam sabers. So pretty nice, even though those are just very standard weapons. Then you have these chain effect parts for the scissor anchors on the front skirt. The front skirt just pulls out of there, simple enough. The side bits of that fold out like this to form a kind of claw. You'll plug one end into here, and then the other end right back into where that was. And there you go, now you've got the effect of that front skirt armor shooting out and grabbing onto an enemy or grabbing onto an enemy's ship or whatever you want to do with that. Now the only thing is that this is just a straight piece. If you wanted to bend it though, I think you could just hit it with a heat gun or even just boil it, put it in some boiling water and bend that, or just a hair dryer, just get it hot enough so that you can bend the plastic if you wanted to have that a little bit curved or something. Wouldn't be too hard to curve that if you want, but I think having it just very rigid and straight out like that does also work very well because it helps with like having it as an action post that it actually looks like it's shooting out. If it was like just like an actual chain or something like that, then you would have had to use an extra stand to hold it up, and that just kind of takes away from the look from it. So I think the fact that they made it as just a rigid piece like that is actually for the better. And then of course these bits on the back of his arm fold out like this for added weapons, and again, just really nice detail. If you can see any frame bits that are going to be showing on here or even like on the back of this part here, you have a lot of really nice detail in on the parts, and especially on the frame parts. So any frame parts that are showing have a lot of nice detail, but even parts that aren't showing, if you're the kind of person who likes a really detailed inner frame, this is definitely going to be a kit for you. So those fold forward like that, and then you have a couple different options. Got two of these brand effect parts, which are really cool. Those just shoot out like that, and holds onto there really nice and firmly. As I said, the kit is very solid, so not going to have any weight issues with that at all. But then this tip part you can remove. You also have the option of using this as a shield. You just replace that with this big beam shield part here like that, and it makes for a pretty cool shield for that as well. So again, the effect parts for this kit all looking very nice. But it is not all swords and knives. We do have a gun in here as well. This is the Buster gun, a very pirate style pistol looking thing, and you have this other option part for it in here as well. According to the manual, this is just an optional piece to have in there at the front. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm sure one of you guys will be able to let me know in the comments down below. It looks like it's some sort of just added attachment for something. I'm not gonna guess, but anyway, it's an added attachment part that you can have on there. But the handle on this is able to move. That's kind of for its transformation into the Zen Buster, which we'll get to in a minute, but that is just held into the hand. So now you can see why you have this really funny looking hand here like that, and that is because it's meant to hold on to this really goofy handle of this gun. So you really need dedicated hands for holding on to that. So it's cool. You'll also notice that there's a peg on the one side of this for plugging on here to the side skirt for storage that can just be plugged onto there like so. And then we have the beam Zamber. This is coming with its own dedicated beam effect part for this as well. Very nicely designed. Just fits down into there to make your kind of typical pirate looking cutlass sort of sword here. Now this one as well, you're just going to hold with one of your option hands, but as you can see, it's got two handles. That's because this does also transform with the Buster gun to make the beam Zamber. And before I do that, I should also mention that this one also has a peg on the side of it for plugging onto the left side of the skirt armor on there like so. But getting those combined is easy enough. Fold a couple things around, and here you have the Zam Buster, which is more kind of like the beam rifle form of that, which is very nice, very cool. Always liked this form of the weapon. And then of course the final accessory for this is the cloak. Now this is the most surprising thing for me that we actually got included with the kit. I really would have thought that this would have been included in some sort of P-Bandai add-on set for this, but no, it was actually included with the kit, so that is awesome, and it's really easy enough to actually get on the kit as well. All you have to do is go back here to the backpack, fold these kind of down and out of the way. It says to fold up all four of them. I really don't think you need to fold up all four, but just gonna mainly get the top two out of the way. You have to pull off the head, get that out of the way. This essentially then just drops down onto the top of there like that, easy enough. Pop the head back on, and there you go. There you've got your awesome parts for that. And then these, each of the four kind of main parts of that do move around. Now it is nice. I like the fact that it's just hard plastic. Some people might have wished that it was an actual cloth or something like that. I think that this probably looks better. Cloth is always kind of it's hard to get it to look like it's like an actual cave. Now this obviously just looks like hard plastic as well, but I think it's just much more convincing overall. And the way that it's molded is really interesting. The color that it's molded in, it almost looks like it's like a mix of gray and brown, not like it's like a grayish brown solid color, which I think it probably is, but just the way that it's molded and the way that it catches light, it has a really cool look to it. And so even just straight out of the box without doing any painting or anything on it at all, it looks really, really good. You know, of course you can get those two at the back, fold it back up to get the full effect, and you can move these around in a way to get your arm out between those on the side. if you want to have him firing a weapon or something out between those. It's easy enough to do. Now with that back out of the way, let's try to quickly go through the articulation, but before that, just want to pull out the core fighter here out the back so you guys can see that. Now it has a clear piece there for the canopy for that does actually open up, as with all, or as far as I can remember, all the RGs. The cockpit actually does open up, but there's no pilot figure or anything seated inside of there, but it's just cool that that does actually open. For this to be in its core fighter form, you just extend the nose cone out like that, just kind of flip these backwards like so, and fold these guys down here like that. And each of these little thruster bells here at the back can also be angled like so as well, so you can kind of angle those as you like. So it makes for a really cool core fighter, very tiny as it is, and it's again just a gimmick that they really probably didn't have to build into this, but it's really cool that they did. And as you can see, just the color separation on it, as well as just the kit in general, is really nice. And it doesn't have that typical RG like two-tone white, it's just all in one shade of white, but just the color separation, all these little bits of yellow and white and everything on here, the fact that those aren't made up by stickers is all really nice. Even like here on the side skirt as well, that just kind of white, dark purple, white, gray, all of that color separation on this kit. Very good. We're going through some articulation here. Now the head will go up to about there, which is actually really nice, really far up, and then down to there. Really great detail here for the skull and crossbones on the head as well. Now I haven't thrown any panel line or anything, of course, on this yet, but if you get that panel lined up, bring out all little details on that, it's going to be looking even better. You can actually open up the mouth here as well. It's a little bit tricky. You want to be a little bit careful with that because it's very tiny pieces, but the mouth effect on that can also be opened up, which is just amazing for this scale. I mean, it's just, like I said, really tiny parts in there for the head, and the fact that that's able to do that and it doesn't like crumble in your hands is pretty amazing. Then the head just down to there, all good for that. In the torso section, you have a really nice bend forward and back there for that. Side to side though, not really going to be anything there. I think that's just because of the fact they had to account for the core fighter going into the back of it, so they kind of lost out on some of the sideways articulation there, but front and back is totally good, and you got some rotation in here as well. Shoulder armor will move up on its own like that. The shoulders themselves, you can bring those out to the front a little bit, but really not all that much, just a little bit to the front. Ultimately, you can get that shoulder up all the way vertical to about there, which is a little bit more than 90 degrees, but not all that much. Again, I think they, in such a really tight spacing here, they kind of had to sacrifice a little bit of the articulation in the waist and a little bit of the articulation of the shoulder, how they couldn't make this more of a complex joint there at the shoulder to allow for a further upward bend. It's just all because of the fact that they had to account for the core fighter going into there. Though here on the cockpit, this does also open up there as well, or I guess where the cockpit would be up inside of there when the core fighter is inside. Otherwise, the arm works pretty normally. Of course, we have rotation up there at the top. We also have rotation here at the middle of the forearm, if I can get it right. There you go, so you guys can see that just fine. And then a double joint here at the elbow to give you a really nice full bend there. That's all good. The wrist, of course, just on a ball joint. As I said, only the one set of hands has an extra wrist joint. The rest of them are just fixed wrists, so just the ball joint there is all you're going to get. The front skirts, despite the gimmick that they have in there, still have a really nice range of movement. You can get those all the way up to there, so those shouldn't be getting in the way of your legs movement at all. The side skirts as well, you're going to be able to get those up nice and far, so you're going to be able to get the legs all the way out to the side, even upwards a little bit, so you have really nice movement there as well. The back skirts also will move up like that, plenty for getting any backwards movement out of the legs if you want. And here you can see is the hard point where the action base connector will plug into the back skirt there. Really interesting hip joint here, in that the whole hip joint can kind of like drop down like that, and I think that's supposed to drop down, and then you can get this knee all the way up to the front like that. Basically, to be able to get this into a really solid kneeling pose like that, it's going to be really good for that. So really interesting hip joint for this. It's kind of unique. It's not something that I don't think I've ever really seen before. Pretty much everything down from there is exactly what you would expect. The legs have rotation there at the top, and as I said, because the skirt armor gets out of the way, no problems moving the leg in pretty much any direction that you could possibly want, which is cool for having a gimmick where you have knives coming out of the feet. You want to be able to do some cool kicking poses, I suppose, and you're going to have no problems doing that with this kit. Nice double bend here in the knee to give you a full bend there. You have a little bit of separation with that knee armor moving up a little bit out of the way, but I've found the knee armor is probably the loosest part of this kit. I've had it pop off a couple times. It's just not really all that secure plugged onto there. It's a very small thing, so don't take that too seriously. If you're really concerned about it, just glue that knee armor piece onto there, but it really isn't that big of an issue. On the back of the ankle armor, you have these little fins which will move up and down. The ankle armor itself, of course, will move forward and back just a little bit like that. The ankles themselves will move side to side. You've got no problems moving those like there. Moving the whole foot forward only to about there, really not all that much, but pointing back to there, that's pretty good. And then the toe will be able to point up, but you can't point the toe down at all, unfortunately. That maybe would have been nice, but nothing like that. And then under the feet, nice full detail there, as you've seen. Now with so many different weapons and option parts for this kit, I want to get into some of the posing options for it, but of course I have to give you a little size comparison here as well, just to drive home the point about, of course, how small this kit is, and that just has all that really tiny detail in there packed in compared to your standard HD 144 scale Gundam there. Alright, so I know this review has already gone on pretty long enough just because of how long it took to go through all the different weapons and accessories for this kit, and of course the articulation in that as well. But I do want to show you guys some of the different posing options for this, just because just to really, again, drive home the point of how many different options they have with this kit, and it's just a ton of different things. And if you're the kind of person that likes changing out the poses on your kit, you like doing different photographs or something with your kits, this is one of those that's just great for giving you a ton of different options in the box as far as mixing and matching different weapons and accessories for. So that's definitely huge points for this kit. And as I said at the very beginning of the review, it's solid too, posing this kit even when you're holding up like the big beam shield or the big beam Zamber. Some of these weapons that on the master grade can be a little bit heavy. On this kit, the joints are super solid, everything works really good. You have no problems at all posing the kit in pretty much any pose that you would want. The articulation is fantastic, the detail on it is fantastic as well. So pretty much if you're a fan of the Crossbone, then this is definitely a kit that you'd want to check out. Like I said earlier, pretty much the only thing negative about this kit would be is if you don't like working with really tiny parts. This does have quite a bit of those, but if you can stomach the really tiny parts, then there's a lot of this kit to enjoy. And for that list price of just being 2,500 yen for this, it's not really going to cost you all that much at all either. Honestly, for me, not too long ago, I was really just kind of falling out of love with the RG line. It just wasn't really all that interesting to me anymore, but man, after the Unicorn and the Sazabi, and now this has just really kind of convinced me that the RG line, Bandai's really been putting a lot of effort into making these kits really fantastic and just super solid and tons of detail and everything. And so I'm really glad about that, so I'm looking forward to more RGs in the future. As always guys, a huge thank you to USA Gundam Store for sponsoring the review. Do check the link to their site down below. You can check out this kit and everything else there on their site and get 10% off all of that stuff with the coupon code ZakuAurelius10. It's all down there in the description, so check that out. My question to you guys is, what do you think is going to be the future of different variants for this? So what variants would you like to see come out first? Obviously no one would like to see them come out as P Bandai kits, but what are your predictions regarding which releases might be premium Bandai or not? I'm interested. Honestly, you know, I could make a prediction, but I really have no idea. My only hope is that someday we'll get a proper kit of the Crossbone Gundam Ghost and or Phantom with those awesome effect parts for those. I'm really hoping so at some point. I'm not sure if they're going to go that route with the RGs. I think they'll probably just stick to the standard X1, X2, X3, and like the full cloth or the X2 Kai or something like things like that. But make your predictions down there in the comment section below so that later on when those are announced you can come back and say, ha, I was right, or you can just delete your comment later so that you won't be embarrassed about being wrong. Anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching as always, and I hope you found this review helpful or informative in some way. I know it was late, so very sorry about that. I got to it as soon as I could, what can I say? Hope you're all having a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.